lose my sense of humor.
All right, welcome to this week's Coffee with Coach press conference. UAB travels to Florida Atlantic for a road game in the American Conference. So with that, I will send it over to Coach Dilfer.
Well, thanks for being here. Extremely disappointed with Saturday's results. Felt like there were we'd really grown a lot on raising our floor, which has been the theme of this group. We resorted back to some bad habits of kind of giving the game away. I give them a lot of credit. They play really hard as we expected and stayed true to who they are. But we gave them a ton of opportunities, so disappointed in that. But got to flush it, move on, embrace the next challenge, and find a way to win on the road.
You talked about after the game, maybe putting a little bit too much on Jalen, and kind of self-evaluating yourself on that. Kind of what after further evaluation, kind of what does that entail, and kind of what does that look like? And do you still think you did?
I think we're still working through that, Steve. We're going to meet with them tonight. We as coaches watch the film. We've been very critical, looked ourselves in the mirror, and when the players come in tonight, kind of addressed. I want to explore from our players kind of what they were thinking, what was going on in their minds. Ask them to be true tellers to us, too. Did we give them too much? Did we ask too much of them? Did we have too many passes, and did we not run it enough? Kind of get their take on it. But obviously there was a threshold of focus that we surpassed. I think that's the right way of saying it. Like we did something that did not allow them to focus it at their highest ability, and it cost us.
And speaking of not running enough, I mean, this is 2 straight games. I think you had 18 carries, this rushes this week, and 19, I think, against Tennessee. How much of that was just the way the game played out, and evaluating that do you need to do more there?
Tennessee, I wouldn't count Tennessee in that. We were not going to be able to run the football against Tennessee, just from a personnel standpoint. Like we probably could have forced a couple more, but they weren't going to get much. Our Army, we had a chance to run it really well. It was more well, we had a few runs called, and then we had those silly penalties that pushed us back to longer yard situation. Very hard to run the ball in 2nd and 13, 2nd and 19, So we had to change those to passes. When it went to 17-7, you felt like you weren't going to have that many more possessions. So we talked on the phones about, hey, we got to make them honor the run, but we got to get back in this thing throwing it. And then we lose a possession with the second play of a drive being an interception. So and that was actually a drive. We were going to start the possession with the pass and then get to the run game. So we wanted to, get the ball around the 30 to 40-yard line and then start running the ball. So, it didn't go the way we wanted to from a run-pass balance standpoint. But we we knew we were having success running the football, and the plan was to run it more in a one-score game.
Entered the Army game kind of with it being a momentum swing kind of game. What did you see from your team at the end of the game? And then what are you looking for them in terms of a response this week in terms of mentally?
Yeah, Tony, that's a really good question. I'm disappointed, very disappointed, but not discouraged. And I think they're the same, and they showed that, even in the locker room after the game, how the game ended. They played hard. There's not this group doesn't have the self-pity, the whining, the complaining, the woe is me, excuse making. It was they were still playing hard. They were still encouraging each other. They were still trying to find answers to the bitter end. So, that is a positive sign. We have to build off of that. We have to make sure this is a week where we're hungry and desperate to get better because of disappointment in the last game, but there's no discouragement. Because once you get discouraged, once that sense of hopelessness starts, like it's a downhill spiral from there. So you can't let a 2-game losing streak discourage you. You can be disappointed and you can make corrections and you can make hard decisions, but you can't let it go super negative.
And then you're getting Sarad back this week. Do you have any updates on any of the other players that were missing against Army?
Sarad will be back, be great. Pierre should be healthier. I don't have. There's still some appointments that Crumpley and Ennis have to go through. And then everybody on offense. We're a little banged up at receiver. BJ and Strap both got banged up a little bit. I think they'll practice, but it'll be limited. Javon Jackson banged up a little bit, but again, we'll practice. So besides that, that's all the news I have.
Pierre wasn't on the injury report. Was that like a last-minute thing?
That was he. We want to give some other safeties a chance. He hasn't been completely healthy. He's practiced, but it hasn't been full speed. So, and we also wanted to give Jeremiah a chance to play safety and AJ and a little bit different rotation. So. I think there'll be like I've said, and I haven't tried to be coy about this. There's lots of position battles that are continue to go on. Even at the offensive line, Barron and Barry did not play, but they're practicing at a very high level and continue to push the starters.
Coach, did you feel like defense maybe took a step forward? I know you lost, but defensively, did you feel like maybe some progress was made, and what can that mean moving forward?
I really did. I really thought they grew. I'm really, I'll tell a story. So Tulane last year, when we got just annihilated, that game got out of reach, and I kept following the book on the metrics on the fourth down go for us. And I really regret it. I regret it all off season because a game where we still would have got beat by a lot of points would not have been as egregious as it ended up. I kind of feel that way about there was 5-ish minutes left, and we're 4th and 10 in our own area, and we go for it. We don't get it, and you put your defense in a bad position because really they had played winning football up until that point, and then you put them in a bad position and the score doesn't reflect how much they grew. I still don't know if I was right or wrong there because there's 5.5 minutes too. Like you convert it and you go down and you score and you put a little stress on them and you get 3 and out and now you get a ball game. So I guess my point is that the score does not reflect how hard they play, how well they handled that option game. We held them to one of their lowest yardage outputs in the run game of the year. So we did a lot of really good things, I think there was a lot of growth there.
Do you feel like as you sort of get into the heart of the schedule here, do you feel like this team is better equipped to handle a 2-game losing streak, kind of staying with it in the middle of the season than last year? Does it feel different to you?
I sure hope so. Yes, my impression is yes. Tonight will be a very important moment when they come in the building and how they approach the work week. I think, work weeks are hard. Their bodies this time of year, they're sore, academics, stress. They're college kids. They're going through a lot. So, but if they can handle this week with great enthusiasm, great intensity, continue to work hard, then that's a really bright sign. I anticipate they will. But we'll see. I think that the theme, one of the big the 2 biggest themes this year has been raising our floor and how we respond, to adversity. So I think both things have to be points of emphasis this week.
You talk about not being discouraged and kind of what's the process of not being discouraged in times like this after a couple losses in a row, especially after a couple tough seasons too. I mean,
yeah.
What's the process of that?
It's a big question. Probably do a podcast on that one. I think for everybody it's a little different. Okay, so I think as a leader, you have to have what I talk to the staff about, and what I'll talk to the players about are, know what disappointment is, know what discouragement is, right? And then know how to handle both if you're fighting discouragement. Know what is truth and know what is lies. So look at the truth of the situation and be truth tellers. So I think we have to be truth tellers on the good and the bad. But don't let one overtake the other, and I think in times of adversity, what happens too often is you start, have you ever heard the white, in fact, I'm going to do this tonight. Have you seen this done before? I'll do it for you. This had a lot of impact on me. What do you see?
One dot.
That's what most people say. You don't see the white?
See white, but I see a dot.
Yeah, but most people see the dot. That's what negativity does to you. Is the dot is the bad. It's the negative, and that's what jumps out. And too often we look at this picture, but what we really in our minds see is that picture. And that's not the reality. The reality is there's a lot of good things. These kids like each other. These kids have a really good brotherhood. We have good coaches. We've done some good things. We've gotten better. You can't let the setbacks, the size of the dot grow bigger than what it is. And when you have 2 bad seasons and now you have a losing record and you've lost 2 games, it's very easy to make that dot bigger than it is. So you have to fight not making the dot bigger than it is. Now the dot's probably bigger than I represented there, but regardless, there's a lot of good, and you have to stay focused on the good, because the good is what's going to get you out of the bad. If you focus on the bad all the time, it's just going to be perpetual, and it's going to amplify itself in a lot of different ways. So I think that's a challenge that we have this week, is making sure that we see the dot for the dot, but not bigger than the dot.
And with FAU this week, kind of what are your thoughts on them? They're coming off a big road victory, and just sort of what are your thoughts on
They're getting better. I give this staff, these players, a lot of credit. They've gotten significantly better as the year has gone on. It's an air raid offense that creates a lot of issues in the passing game, and they do know how to run the ball. It's not like they don't care about running the football. They just run a little differently. They lead with the pass. They're very good at what they do. So they put pressure on you from that standpoint. Defensively, they've grown a lot. I think they've settled into what they want to be, and they are playing faster, playing more physical, defeating blocks better, covering better, getting to the quarter, creating a lot more chaos for the quarterback. So it's a team that's improving, and they're at home. They play better at home. Although they won at Rice, but they play with more energy, it looks like. And the weather, I think, looking ahead, the weather does not look great, so that's something we have to consider as well. So I say this every week, though, we're not good enough to where any game's not going to be a great challenge. So this is a great challenge ahead of us, and we have to get better. I thought that's the hard thing, and man, I wrestled this all the time, is it felt as if we were going to play our best football based on how we prepared during the week. We can't be discouraged again because a great week of preparation did not lead to great execution. We have to work really hard, prepare really well to give ourselves the best chance to succeed. I think one of the great lies that is told in our country, to be honest with you, is hard work equals success. That's not true. There's a lot of people that work really, really, really hard that don't have a lot of success. But hard work gives you the best chance of having success, and we need to take that approach. Just because hard work and great preparation last week did not equal success does not mean that we shouldn't do it again, because it gives us our best chance to have success. And that's another one of the things with the dot, is it's too easy to go, gosh, I did everything, I sacrificed this, I worked hard, and look, it didn't get me anything. No, that's a wrong way of looking at it. It's okay, I'm going to do that again so I have a chance to be successful this next week. Because if you do the opposite, if you don't work hard, if you cash it in, if you are feeling sorry for yourself, if any of those things come in, now you've just limited your chances of success exponentially.
It sounds simple, but how important are takeaways in this game specifically? They've kind of struggled with those through the air. How much are you stressing that this week?
Well, I think we're 2 of the worst in the country. In fact, I have that note somewhere. It was sent to me yesterday. I think we're 6th worst in the country, and they're worse than us in turnover ratio. And it's the number one indicator of wins and losses. So we haven't taken the ball away enough, and we've turned it over too much. And it's so frustrating and disappointing, because it's the opposite of what we preach. It's the opposite of what we train. It's the opposite of what we emphasize. You guys have been to practice. All you're hearing is protect the ball and take it away and make good decisions, and and yet we've found a way to be careless with it offensively, and defensively not get it back enough. So it is. I think that's a huge part of this football game, is the team that can steal the ball from the other team the most will probably win.
On the offensive side of the ball, it's probably a lot of mindfulness, in terms of being aware and being a good ball carrier. But on the defensive side of the ball, how do you coach turnovers? How do you Is it aggression or?
Yeah, I think there's the more people that are around it, the more people that are attacking it, the more violent you are with your collisions. And I think there's some techniques, to punching it out, awareness, situational awareness, and knowing that you're not the primary tackler, so you're not necessarily responsible for bringing them down. Somebody else is. Well, you have an opportunity to knock the ball out. I think eye discipline is a huge part of this thing, both offensively and defensively. Guys with great eyes protect the ball. Guys with great eye discipline protect the ball, and guys with great eye discipline take it away. I'll just use a defensive analogy. You have the ball carrier's being held up or he's being tackled, and the other guy comes in. I'm from me to Steve. What am I looking at? You know what I mean? Like, I should be looking at the ball, and I should be finding a way to get the ball out. But too often we go in there and we're not looking at anything. We're just looking at color and we're going to hit something. And you see it all the time in college football, guys just randomly throwing their helmets in there instead of attacking something specific. Offensively, our turnovers are all, outside of Solomon's fumble, I want to make sure I'm right on this one. I think they are all eye discipline issues, just not seeing the right stuff, not starting looking at the right thing. So it's not talked about nearly enough in football, but eye discipline is up there with the physical traits that matter. When your eyes are right, when you're looking at the right things at the right times, you make better decisions, and we have not.
And then switching to the special teams with Jonah, he's been so consistent, and then he's kind of missed some easier kicks this year. Mm-hmm. Is it a mental thing, and how do you kind of combat that?
Man, if I knew that, I'd probably be a lot better at what I do. I think you have to take kickers. It's a lot like golfers, right? So some of my best friends are ex-NFL kickers. And the way they articulate it to me is it's no different than going to the driving range and hitting your 8-iron just the way you want to hit it. However long you hit it, whatever you play it right to left, left to right, and you're hitting it good, you're flush, you're in a rhythm. And then you get into the game and you mishit it. And his misses have been mishits. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, why? Well, is my rhythm off? Is the operation off? Is it my mindset? Is it a confidence thing? I don't know, but the bottom line is I'm not taking it from the range to the course. And most of the time it's overcomplicating it. You talk to the best kickers, like Phil Dawson. I learned a ton from Phil Dawson. And he would say, okay, I got a 51-yarder in Cleveland, winds into me, it's snowy, it's a really tough kick. Right? I'm not trying to make it. I'm trying to hit it solid, because hitting it solid gives me the best chance of that ball, the thousands of reps that I've taken going where I've trained for it to go. And I think that's the issue right now, is that he's just not hitting solid balls. He's trying to make kicks. And I told him, I went up to him after the second miss, and I said, hey, if this comes down to a game winner, just hit it solid. I believe you'll hit it solid. When you hit him solid, Jonah, you make him. Like, just go hit it solid. Don't try to make it. And I think there's this thing, I think you can try too hard. I don't know if I said this last week, but, one of the themes to our skill position guys this year is trying to teach them how to try easy. And it's a lesson I had to teach my daughters, because all three of my daughters were performing, want to do it perfect. I'm like, no, you prepare for perfection, and then you try easy in the game. And they're like, what the heck does that mean? But trying easy is, I trust my preparation, and I'm going to make it easy in the game. I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible in the game. And for a kicker, it's just hit it square, hit it solid. Quarterback, just trust your eyes, feel your feet, let it rip, whatever it is. As a receiver, right? It's just be fast, finish. Don't be thinking about where my hands are and it's high, I do this. And the more you think, the more you're locked up. So I think our skill position guys in general, put Jonah in that, it's this try easy, make it simple, trust your preparation approach, and they'll be a lot freer when they play, and they'll make less mistakes. And the only reason I know this is I've made every mistake they've made. You guys have seen me coach, I constantly tell my guys, I have been where you've been at. I've been locked up mentally. I've thought too much. I've made it too complicated. I've tried to be perfect. I've tried to be a pleaser. I've done all those things. None of them work, right? This is what works. prepare like a champion, let it rip on game day. And you can go to the NFL right now, you can go to the NBA, you can go to Major League Baseball, the playoffs are going on, you can ask any of the best players, what are you thinking about? Not much. You know, I'm thinking about I have confidence because I prepared like a champion, and now I'm just letting it rip. Now I'm just seeing pitch, hitting ball. Now I'm seeing spot, letting it rip. All right, see the three. You know, I've spent a lot of time with Steph talking about making threes. He's not thinking about his footwork, his step back, his technique. You know, he's not thinking about any of those things. He's thinking about there's the basket, I got to make it. But he's trusting thousands and thousands and thousands of reps where he has put pressure on himself and thought about those things. So in game time, he doesn't have to. And, I mean, we've been preaching this for 2.5 years. At some point, I believe that it's going to click, and the shackles of pressure and the shackles of performance anxiety and the shackles of thinking too much should come off, and you should see the best iterations of themselves.
When you've struggled on the road, obviously over the last,
Historically.
I mean, when you have, and when you're in the middle of that, how much do you have to kind of mentally sort of just say, hey, this is just another game type thing, instead of getting caught up saying, oh, we're terrible on the road. Just get sort of throw that away a little bit and say, hey, we got to concentrate on winning this one on the road. Is there kind of an art to that?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to learn. If you have any suggestions, let me know. I think that has been about the middle of last year is like, okay, well, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? So we started changing how we do things and tweaking, and we would see growth at times, Then this year, the off season, talking through how to, get them ready to play better on the road, how to travel better, how to perform better on the road. I mean, it's obviously a huge point of emphasis. We're not blind to the road record. So we've tried to do as many things as possible to give them the best chance to play their best on the road. And we'll make some tweaks this week as well. I think at the end of the day, I think I said this before Navy, there is a formulaic way of winning on the road. I mean, if you just go back and just look at teams that go and win on the road consistently, they play really good defense. It's very hard to win on the road if you don't play good defense. They get the ball back. They steal the ball. Offensively, you run the football, right? You play clean. You don't make a lot of stupid mistakes. You're going to have some, right? But you don't define the game as dumb mistakes. It's like, yeah, a couple hiccups here and there, but we overcame them. I think there's poise. I think poise is a big part of it. You got to handle adversity probably from the time you leave the facility to the time the game's over. You face all kinds of different little adversities, right? Food's not ready on time, room's not right, bus broke down, plane got delayed, whatever it is. So it's kind of like water off a duck's back approach. Like you kind of know what to expect, and then when it happens, you deal with it better, and not let it bother you. So I think all those are part of it. But I think ultimately, when you start playing in that game, you have to play with a mentality and a formula to a certain degree that gives you the best chance to beat a team at their home place. And we just have not been able to do that. We've played really bad defense in my tenure here since on the road. We've turned it over on the road. Those two things alone are going to get you beat. So it doesn't matter what tweaks we make during the week. If we play bad defense and we turn it over, we're probably not going to win. So I think if you just want to make it super simple, we got to play better defense and we got to not turn it over. And it will give us a chance to win the game on the road.
Anything else? All right, Coach, thank you.
All right, appreciate it.